No, thank you. Sleepy. Come back in an hour.
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. And joining me right now from the Golden Isles is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, Sal?
Good morning, Billy. How are you, Bal?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. We got to see some great fights over the weekend. New heavyweight champion Manny Pacquiao beating Timothy Bradley for the, technically for the second time, but many people believe that it's actually for the third time. Weather seems to be changing. How was your weekend?
It was good. You know, we've had the spring breakers. All the colleges and the local schools over the last 3 or 4 weeks have been rotating and taking off. So we've been slammed at the restaurant, and in between, we've had the fights. And oddly enough, you know, I called Johan's Productions, and they said they weren't even carrying this fight, and you know. So it was a little bit strange, but I did see the fight with Pacquiao and Bradley, but everything else is going well. I also watched the Anthony Joshua fight, and we had a good weekend of some fights.
Yeah, no doubt. And I tell you, we're going to get into talking about both those big fights and some of the other ones in a few moments. But first, I want to get everybody caught up on our adopted Division III college baseball team, the Keene Owls, and they played over the weekend and didn't fare too well. They had 3 games over the weekend and went 1-3. So they need to get back on track, which they'll have a chance to do today, Sal, because they are playing a game today at Western New England University. So for everyone that's interested in checking out our Owls, visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Owls banner, which is on the front page. So I tell you what, I got an email I want to read and then get your thoughts on it too. This is from my man Bajorn. He says, hey, Billy C., are people really excited that Manny has now beaten Timothy Bradley for the third time? He was robbed the first fight, won the second, and now this third fight. Did anyone really think Bradley was going to win? You know, this email is kind of, I don't agree with the tone of it, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but I don't know about you, Sal, but I thought Timothy Bradley was definitely a good opponent for Manny Pacquiao. As a matter of fact, I thought that the fight was more exciting than any Floyd Mayweather fight. I mean, try and find one that was more exciting than Pacquiao Bradley 3. And then to add to that, Sal, the bottom line is Manny Pacquiao picks a guy in Timothy Bradley for his so-called last fight, and Timothy Bradley is a pound-for-pound fighter. You know, he's a top fighter. When you compare him to Floyd Mayweather picks Andre Berto, who is a finished, done fighter with extremely limited skills. I liked the fight, and a lot of people did pick Timothy Bradley. As a matter of fact, the odds makers had that fight pretty close just before the first bell rang. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a big fight for Pacquiao to come back to, and he was certainly choosing Bradley, who was a more than formidable opponent on his comeback fight. And I think that you know, when you look at Pacquiao's earlier years, and he never ducked anybody. He wanted to fight everybody. He was like the throwback to the old days that you and I talked about. He wants to fight the best, to prove he's the best. And, you know, Bradley was definitely a good opponent to take on. And I'll tell you what, I saw that Pacquiao handled Bradley in a pretty good fashion, and I was pretty impressed at how Pacquiao did look.
Well,
And
well,
yeah, it was a good
yeah,
fight altogether. And I think that it was a good opponent to make Pacquiao look good. It was good.
well,
It was
I
a
don't
good
know
fight.
about that. I don't know. I don't know
No,
if I agree. I don't know if that is kind of the tone that Bjorn is saying. I don't think that Timothy Bradley, was a perfect opponent to make Manny Pacquiao look good. As a matter of fact, in the fight that everyone believes that Pacquiao got robbed against Bradley, he made Pacquiao look ordinary. So I don't know. I thought it was. There were times when Timothy Bradley went after Manny, and it looked like Manny took some shots. I just think I saw some improvement in. Believe it or not, I saw some improvement in Manny Pacquiao with his ability to avoid punches, which let's face it, his last several fights, he didn't seem like he could avoid much offense from his opponent, and he also was pretty sharp counterpunching, something that I felt he was lacking in his last couple of fights. So no, I don't really agree. I think that Timothy Bradley was actually the guy that, in my opinion, I think Bob Arum and Top Rank was hoping that Timothy Bradley would have won that fight.
and you know what? He probably could have. And when I said he made him look good, meaning like he made him look good in his victory over Bradley, and he definitely Bradley had some opportunities, and probably his best shot was when he rallied in the eighth round. He came back. He was very effective, and he hurt Pacquiao with a shot, and he kept the momentum up. But then he threw it away towards the end of the round. Pacquiao came back. So, that's what I'm saying. Pacquiao did a good job in beating a guy that made him look good. That brought out what we know Pacquiao has. But yeah, I thought that Bradley gave him a fight, but he was in the fight. But the momentum was early shifting and dominating by Pacquiao.
You and I have talked about this a lot off the air and even on the air, but I felt pretty strongly that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather would have a rematch. But I also felt that, because Manny was, complaining like a little girl after the Mayweather fight, that his shoulder and this and that, and he went and he had this surgery. And actually, the Timothy Bradley fight was the first fight since the surgery. And, I felt that if the fight was good and if Manny Pacquiao looked good, that it would almost secure the rematch. And I have a feeling it's going to take place this year in September. And even further proof about that, it's been reported that Mayweather reached out to Timothy Bradley and feels that Timothy Bradley got robbed in a sense, because he felt that at the worst case the fight should have been scored a draw. And his claim, Sal, was that the audience audience was kind of rooting for Manny Pacquiao, and he felt that the judges were swayed. But that's how foolish and stupid I believe Floyd Mayweather is, because if he even watched the fight, if he even paid attention to the fight, he would have heard that the chants were going back and forth. When Manny did well, the fans were chanting Manny. When Bradley did well, the fans were chanting Bradley. So I don't know. I think more people lean towards Manny at the end of the fight because of his performance. What do you think?
I think you're right on, Bill. I heard plenty of chants for Bradley, especially, like I said, even in that eighth round when he looked like he was trying to rally a little bit of an arsenal to step up and take the fight and shift the momentum, because he was well behind on points on my card, and he had to do something dramatic in those last couple of rounds. That after the eighth round, he was just not able to do so. But yeah, I heard both fighters' names being chanted and called out. And yeah, I saw the same fight you did, pal.
Yeah, I guess that's what it boils down to. I saw a great performance by Manny. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I got another email to read. This one's from my man Joel. And Joel says, hey, Billy C., what surprised you the most this weekend? The way Anthony Joshua beat Charles Martin in 2 rounds, or how Manny Pacquiao looked somewhat of his old form, winning the decision over Bradley. He says, or Gilberto Ramirez shutting out Arthur Abraham on the scorecards to win the WBO super middleweight title. I actually think that was the biggest surprise for me, Sal. I was wrong. I picked Arthur Abraham in that fight. I just felt that Ramirez, despite him being so much bigger and younger, I just felt that Arthur Abraham was going to come out on top in that fight, and I was wrong. Gilberto Ramirez looked pretty poised in there, dominated the fight, utilized his height and arm reach advantage to keep Arthur Abraham at bay. Plus, Arthur Abraham did the same old thing he always does, gives up the first several rounds with his turtle shell defense, and this very well may have been the end for Arthur Abraham. That fight kind of surprised me the most. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right on. Although I'll tell you not to change the subject too much, but the biggest surprise for me this week, it was when they had Roberto Duran in the ring to introduce and announce, and there was very shallow, very little applause for Roberto Duran being present at the Pacquiao fight.
Well, I don't know. I think that the bottom line is I think people love Roberto Duran now. He wasn't the nicest guy in the world when he played, but when he fought. But now everybody. I think everyone loves him. But hey, you never know. Hey, that crowd was strange, but I thought that it was a great fight. Yeah. I also loved, and I will reiterate, I loved watching Anthony Joshua knock out Charles Martin. We're going to take a break here in a minute, Sal, but my quick thought is that, first of all, and we'll talk about it more when we come back from the break, first of all, in my opinion, neither fighter should have really been fighting for a world title, and they were announced as the champion of the world. I mean, there should only be one champion. There's only one world, so there should only be one heavyweight champion of the world. And the way Martin won that belt via the injury of Glasgow, and then I give him a lot of credit for going into the Lions Den and fighting Anthony Joshua. But I thought Anthony Joshua looked good against Charles Martin. What do you think, real quick?
Oh yeah, I thought Anthony Joshua definitely had his A game and was rising to the occasion. He knew what was on the line. He was in his backyard. I called it last week. I told you I think that Anthony Joshua is going to be dominant, and I didn't think he would do it so quickly. You have two big guys in there, and that's what happens when one of them lands a clean punch. And Anthony Joshua did just that in the second round. I think he's a rising star. I think he's going to hold his own for a little while here, and might be the shape to consider in the new rankings of the heavyweight division.
Well, what the sad thing is, he's a world champion. I agree with you. He's a rising star, but he's a world champion. Hold that thought, Sal. We got to take a quick break, and we'll finish our thoughts on Anthony Joshua knocking out Charles Martin. I'm Billy C. I'm here with Sal Rocky Senecola, and we'll both be back in about 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now, back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in the Golden Isles of Georgia, St. Simon's Island. check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give him a call directly, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. And also, JKJ Boxing Magazine. Get yourself a copy of the magazine right now. You can get a copy. Oh, did I mention it's for free? Get yourself a copy by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and check out the right-hand side and go to the JKJ Boxing magazine, and you can download that for free. Now, you can also have the magazine sent to you without any problem, except for one thing. You have to pay for the postage, but still, the magazine itself for you is free, just like the one I'm holding in my hands, because that's this most recent issue. The magazine is put out 4 times a year for now, and you should check it out, man. It's a good read. So anyway, I have we were talking about the Anthony Joshua fight, and I got my man Sal on the line right now, and we were talking about the Anthony Joshua fight just before we went to break, and lost you on the other connection, Sal.
We had a power outage. We are totally black here. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, hey, I believe it. They're doing some stuff on the power lines. I got one tree in my yard that kind of grows near the power lines, you know. And they like cut it. It's got like a twig, like it's really going to affect. You know, I could drive up the street and see literally trees laying on the thing, and they leave those alone. But they destroyed my only tree. That is it. I'm ready to go kill the guys. But anyway, before we went to break, we were talking about the Anthony Joshua Charles Martin fight. I think it showed that Anthony Joshua is an extremely talented fighter. Not only does he have some devastating power, which was evident on Saturday night, but you know, he seems very. He's technically sound. His body is proportionate. You know, I always look at a fighter's body. Sometimes you see them, you know, top heavy and you know, maybe they got big chest and arms and little skinny toothpick legs and stuff. Anthony Joshua's a big man, and he seems proportionate. He seems very calm, cool, and collective in there. You know, he doesn't rush. And the best thing I love about the guy is he seems grounded. He's so humble when he speaks, and I love him. I hope that he becomes the heavyweight that we can all look up to. He seems to be a good role model, at least at this stage of his life. And I'm excited that he's a title holder, and I can't wait to see him continue to develop and get better and better. What do you think?
Billy, you and I are from the same cloth. I have to concur 100%. And I'll tell you what I like about Anthony Joshua is just what you said. Fundamentally, he's a sound fighter. He's got the basics. He keeps his hands up. He carries himself well. He's a strong guy. He's a durable guy. I just hope when he gets tested with his chin that he could take the punishment, take the fight, and go to the distance and everything else here. But he's got a solid background behind him, and I think I'd like to hope that he's going to be part of the future of the heavyweight division. It's going to be there for a while.
Well, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. You got to talk in your phone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So
now I can. So what were you saying?
I was going to say that I hope that he is around for a long time, and he's going to help shape that heavyweight division and be someone that we can all look up to. He's a solid fighter. Fundamentally, he's sound. He's got a great stance. He's got a lot of good things about him that I'm very, very happy to see in a fighter.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's going to be interesting to see because now the IBF will give him some mandatories and everything else. David Haye is trying to get a fight with him. I can't stand the fact that David Haye is fighting, you know, cupcake opponents and most likely will get a shot. There's talk that Shannon Briggs will be fighting on David Haye's next fight card, and should he get by his sacrificial lamb opponent, then David Haye and Shannon Briggs will fight each other, and then you watch the winner of that fight will probably get a shot at one of the titles, and I don't know if it's really justified, but we'll wait and see. Hey, Sal, I got a an email from Jack D. It's actually an email I received last week, and I really didn't get a chance to read it, but it's a good one, and I want to get your thoughts on it too. He says, "Hey, Billy C, I'm a fellow big fan of the sport of boxing who shares the same passion for the sport, and I enjoy your show. I have an affinity for the history of the heavyweight division and wanted to get your thoughts on some things. Can one make the argument that Andrew Golota was the first who really began to break through the hegemony of black fighters controlling the heavyweight division? Although he did not officially beat Bo, he did batter him into retirement, essentially. Bo Golota, too, also set a CompuBox record for the most power punches absorbed by a heavyweight, and that was in under 9 rounds. Golota exposed Michael Grant for the bust that he turned out to be. Further, Andrew impressively shut down Daniel Nicholson, Darren Hayden, Marlon Wilson, Corey Sanders, Timmy Witherspoon, all of whom are no world beaters, and the latter was way past his prime. But I still think these wins are symbolic in the fact that Andrew proved skill-wise that white fighters can very much compete with elite-level black heavyweights. If I'm not mistaken, during the decade of the 90s, he had most of the Ring Magazine's top 10s out of any white fighter, making the list 3 different years, edging Tommy Morrison. Andrew was a persecutor who started to pave the way for a lot of future heavyweight champions from his neck of the woods, which was Eastern Europe, most notably the Klitschko brothers. The real history, as Vitaly and Vladimir together embarked on a long journey of absolute dominance in the division, especially Vladimir. He was unlike white fighters before him. Historically, the black fighters tended to dominate the heavyweight division more often than not. Max Schmeling did briefly interrupt the heavyweight title reigns, and Johansson with Schmeling. He says, then there was Cooney in the 80s, but Golota should consistently went out and proved he was the best, and should he have been considered the guy that broke the control of the black fighters in the heavyweight division? I don't know. It's a tough question, Sal, because I think that yes, there's been a lot of dominant black heavyweight fighters, but you got to go by the pool of fighters that are in it. If there's more black fighters generally, wouldn't there be more black heavyweight champions? I mean, if that's the way I look at it. I don't think. I don't know. What do you think,
Billy? Again, you know what? You and I are on the same page. I was thinking while I'm listening to you, my days with Northwestern Mutual Life as a life insurance rep and financial advisor, and we dealt with actuaries, and for all intents and purposes, I was an actuary with life insurance and things like that. You have the numbers, you have the odds. Now, back in the early 1900s, we had a lot of the immigrants coming over. You and I talked about this. That's where there were a lot more Caucasian fighters coming over from Germany, from Italy, from Ireland, from France, and so there was a thicker pool of white fighters in the mix with the black fighters. For some reason now, I think a lot of the whites have not chosen boxing as their field of endeavor for their future, as many as the blacks have. So you do have a more populated game by some blacks and Hispanics than you do as whites or Caucasians. And so the odds are that there are going to be, majority of black fighters that are going to be world champions. And you will have, proportionally, for the white fighters that are in the game, you will get some of those shining stars during the time. But I think that's the whole demographics and the whole odds and the whole numbers game when you're looking at who's dominating and what race they're from or whatever,
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest with you, I just think that they shouldn't separate, like a black fighter from a white fighter. I think that what's happened is that the better fighters have become the champs. They happen to be black, but whatever. I don't think it's, I don't think it has anything to do with the color of their skin. I just think that they're better. The guys that have won the title, happen to have been the best fighter of that era, of their reign or whatever. So I don't know. That's a tough one. They did have the Great White Hope era when the country was pretty prejudiced back when after James Jeffries retired and then Jack Johnson took over. That was when the Great White Hope era happened, and then they resurrected it in the late 70s, early 80s, and they actually referred to Jerry Cooney as the Great White Hope at one time because of the Larry Holmes was not popular with the media. But today it's a different story.
Billy, all I was trying to say in simple fashion is just what you're saying. If you have 100 fighters and 70 of those fighters are black and 30 are white, the odds are you're going to see more reigning black fighters than you will white fighters.
I agree.
That's all. And that's the simple reduction of what I was saying in that whole statement. And the bottom line is, if that's the momentum, that's the shift. Yeah, the best fighter, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, anything, the best fighter is going to rise to the top and be a champion. The odds are, where there's a dominant of one race in the game than the other, we're more likely to see the more dominant race rise to be a champion. It's just a number of odds. That's it.
Right. It's just a number of how many are into the sport. Like you make a point. Hispanics, let's say. There's a lot of Hispanics in the sport of boxing. There's a lot of world champions, but not many heavyweights. And the reason is, they have a tendency to be smaller men, and the fact is in order to be a heavyweight today, you're going to have to be a certain physical size. The heavyweight division today, I mean, we saw it on Saturday night. Anthony Joshua and Charles Martin, two big dudes, a heavyweight of yesteryear, as much as I love Jack Dempsey, at his size, weighing 185 pounds, even Rocky Marciano for that matter, it would be hard to see them, fighting a talent, assuming that the talent level is a little higher than it really is now. I mean, the talent level I don't think is as high, but it would be hard to see a Jack Dempsey or a Rocky Marciano fighting a 6'7", 250-pound chiseled athlete. I just, it doesn't make it. I don't think it would fare too well.
Well, as you were just saying, you look at Tyson Fury at 6'9", and Klitschko. So these guys are big boys. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't be chopped down and you can't have a heart and a power and a punch like Marciano at 5'10", 5'10 and a half at best at 185. But it does, again, the majority of these heavyweights are bigger athletes today.
Yeah, there's just human beings are bigger. We're all, I mean, not you and I, but,
I was going to say, wait a minute, you and I missed that.
I know, we missed that gene.
That gene.
I know.
We missed that gene.
But anyway, hey, listen, Sal, we got to take a break. I appreciate you coming on, and light a candle for me because I know that you're in the dark there. Did you get your power back?
No, we're completely black. I had fights on. I had a bunch of fights on. I had the Pacquiao fight replay, and I wanted to watch it again. And it's so funny. I thought the ring announcer was it sounded a little bit like Samuel L. Jackson. I had to look twice to make sure I had seen him. And then I was on the internet earlier watching the early Bradley Pacquiao fight, and I heard Manny Stewart on that one, so I knew that was an old one. But we're still black here. It's done. It's out. I got the TV off, and everything's out. I can't see nothing. That's why we're on cell phone versus a microphone.
Well, listen, we will be chatting more about these fights tomorrow when we get you on the line. All right?
Absolutely. Up and at 'em. We'll be there, and I look forward to it, buddy. You have a great day. Thank you. And I just want to say, I'm getting a lot of great feedback down here in the Golden Isles in Georgia. I'm turning a lot of people on to the station to listen. And, Max, our pie guy, he's also spreading the word. So you're getting a great contingency of followers here and in the Southeast, and I hope the same up in the North. And, I hope all your fans start talking and telling about it because it's a great show. would encompass a lot within a couple of hours. So I thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm great to be a team. I'm grateful to be a team member. Thank you, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk in the morning.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That's Sal Rocky Senecola. I got to take a break. I'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the menu and drool. www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Mention Billy C. Tell him that you love him on the show, and I'm sure you'll get a free cannoli out of him if you go to his restaurant. 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Check it out. It's for free. Download a copy or sign up to have a copy delivered to you. You do have to pay for postage, but the magazine's for free. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing magazine cover, which is on the right-hand side. We're talking about some fights. I'm going to get some scores, but right now I'm thinking, Manny Pacquiao says he retired. Floyd Mayweather said he retired. Listen, after the Floyd Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, in which, to me, no one except Manny Pacquiao and his crazy nutcase mom felt that he won. I felt Floyd won that fight easily. I was a little concerned. I felt that there'd definitely be a rematch, but I think that the fight against Bradley, once Manny Pacquiao proved that, he's not like Floyd in a sense where he picks an easy opponent to fight his last fight. He picked arguably a pound-for-pound fighter in Timothy Bradley and looked really good beating Bradley. I feel that now the fight's definitely going to happen. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao too, both of them coming out of retirement, so to speak. I think I wouldn't be shocked if this fight happens in September. I really don't. Floyd Mayweather, has been adamant about not returning, but the guy is in great shape. and Manny Pacquiao said he retired, wants to focus on his political run. I think they're going to fight. I really do. And I can't see them waiting until next year. I can't see it. Not that one will age more than the other, but but then again, you never know with Floyd Mayweather. He always takes the easy way out. And the easiest way would hope that Manny Pacquiao slows down even more. But then again, Floyd's aging too. I think the fight's going to happen. What's your thoughts? Drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing. I got some scores to get you caught up on. Now, there was no hockey league action because they're getting ready for the playoffs. But in Major League Baseball, the Pirates topped the Tigers 7-4. Orioles against the Red Sox in a pretty high-scoring game. But the Orioles came out on top 9-7. Padres over the Phillies 4-3. The White Sox beat the Twins 4-1. The Twins are winless, 0-7 now after the loss to the White Sox. The Cardinals beat up on the Brewers 10-1. The Marlins beat up on my Mets, and they won 10-3. The Mets are struggling at 2-4, and Steve Matz got beat up early in that fight. Got beat up early in that baseball game to suffer the loss. The Nationals beat the Braves 6-4. Braves are winless too at 0-6. The Cubs, who I feel are going to be representing the NL this year in the World Series, they topped the Reds 5-2. They go to 6-1 so far in the season. The Astros 8-2 over the Royals. The Angels 4-1 over the A's, and the Rangers topped the Mariners 7-3. In Major League Baseball action. Over in the NBA, the Cavaliers beat the Hawks 109-94. The Magic beat the Bucks 107-98. Hornets topped the Celtics 114-100. Wizards 120 over the Brooklyn Nets. My Nets, they just suck. 120-111. Rockets 129 over the Timberwolves at 105. The Bulls 121. Pelicans 116. The Thunder beat up on the Lakers, man. 112-79. The Mavericks topped the Jazz 101-92, and the Kings beat the Suns 105-101. I got another email I want to get out of the way real quick. It's the last one. This one is from my man Alex T, the other Alex. He says that the subject line in the email is LaMotta and Leonard. He says, hey, Billy C, Jake LaMotta always comes to mind when I think about today's fans who don't understand what the sweet science really is. I'm afraid today's younger fans think this term describes a style of boxing which involves a boxer backing up, circling, and jabbing while never getting hit solidly because he will not put himself in harm's way. This is not what that term means, which I agree with 100%. I agree that that's not the sweet science. That's Floyd Mayweather's brainwash tactics to convince his sucker fans that what he displays is sweet science. And it's not. It's 80% sweet science. But the part Floyd doesn't do is he runs away and he's not being hit, but he's also not in a position to inflict damage. So anyway, he says, it's my understanding the term means fighting in a style where you're in a position to hit your opponent and take away his best weapons, but he cannot hit you with his best shots. And that is pretty much, in layman's terms, what the sweet science means. He says the guys who are best at this are not runners. They're the guys who sit in the pocket and control the action. LaMotta was a great example of this. He was a great defensive technician and not the wild man he's portrayed to be in the Raging Bull movie. This is a guy that had about 100 fights and only got dropped once, and that was in one of his last fights. This is a guy that understood parrying, slipping, and rolling with the punches. Was he tough as nails? And did he have a great chin? Was he aggressive? Of course. He might have had the greatest chin of all time, but he didn't take tons of punishment because he was sound defensively, and that doesn't mean running away. I just want to comment on this. Referring to Jake LaMotta as having a sound defense is pretty gutsy from Alex T. And the reason why I say that is because although he was very proficient at rolling with punches and not being hit flush, he still was getting hit. Where you look at some defensive genius fighters, and their movement, their head movement and body movement and reflexes were so good that they caused their opponent to just hit air rather than even graze them. And if Jake LaMotta had a little more movement, I think that he wouldn't have, taken the shots that he did when he fought. Although he did roll with a lot of punches, and most of the punches that were landed on him didn't do telling damage. Anyway, he says, this leads to my next topic. I was talking to a friend who brought up Mayweather and how boring he is. I said that 20 or 30 years ago, a guy like Mayweather wouldn't have been as popular as he is now simply because social media didn't exist. I believe if Mayweather wasn't online saying and doing stupid things every day, he would only be looked at as a great fighter. He wouldn't be the celebrity he is based on his fights because, frankly, he's not exciting. He's not a celebrity based on his fights. He's a celebrity because, and I think this is exactly what Alex T is saying, he's a celebrity because he does the stupid things and says the outrageous, crazy stuff, because he's not that smart. And the reason why he's considered a celebrity is because of the money. He makes so much money, and this world has just become, so infatuated with people that make a lot of money and they crave it. The funny thing is that the majority of Floyd Mayweather fans are the ones who are so loyal to Floyd are actually the ones that Floyd takes advantage of. So, how stupid are they? But anyway, he says, I brought up Ray Leonard and how he had every bit of hand and foot speed as Mayweather does, and he could have easily danced his way to a decision every time, but he didn't. Despite having all the technical advantages, when Leonard smelled blood in the water, he would knock your ass out. And if he was behind on points, he would throw the textbook out the window and knock you out. Same way he did with Hearns and Donnie Lalonde. They don't make fighters like these anymore. And just like Sugar Ray Robinson as well. Great email, Alex T. I appreciate it. Same thing with guys like, we're talking about Tommy Hearns and, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson. These were guys that had knockout punch, but also had strong boxing skills as well. So you can't knock them. Real quick, we got the results of the weekend. Manny Pacquiao, we've been talking about that. He drops Timothy Bradley not once but twice. I think it was one legitimate knockdown. That first knockdown, I think, was just a off-balance shot. But Manny improves to 58 wins, 6 losses, and a couple of draws with 38 knockouts. He won a unanimous decision, 116-110, with the way all 3 judges scored it. Timothy Bradley only loses for the second time in his career, and incidentally, both times to Manny Pacquiao. His record now 33 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, with 13 wins coming by knockout. Gilberto Ramirez remained undefeated, 34-0 with 24 knockouts when he beat King Arthur Abraham, who drops to 44-5. All 3 judges scored it the same, 120-108. I was a little surprised at this. I was wrong with this pick. I thought Arthur Abraham would go in for the knockout and really test Ramirez, but Ramirez had a smart game plan. He used his height and reach advantage and won the fight, shut out Arthur Abraham. Oscar Valdez continues his rise in the featherweight division. He improved to 19-0 with 17 knockouts when he stopped Evgeny. I can never pronounce this guy's name. Evgeny Gradovich, who drops at 22-1-1. The official time was 2 minutes and 14 seconds in the 4th round. I think Gradovich is a guy that may want to consider continuing his career. He just looked like a punching bag, to be honest with you. In the super lightweight division, Jose Ramirez remained undefeated, 17-0 now with 12 knockouts when he beat the snot out of Manny Perez, 97-93, 98-92, 99-91 with the way all 3 judges scored that. Perez drops to 25-12. And Constant Panama, I'm freaking having some trouble today speaking. I'm having trouble with systems. I'm having trouble with Sal's phone. Jeremy doesn't show up. I mean, crazy shit. Konstantin Ponomarev improved to 30-0 with 13 knockouts when he won a split decision over formerly unbeaten Brad Solomon, who drops to 26-1. Two judges scored it for Ponomarev, 98-92 and 96-94, while the third had it for Solomon, 96-94. A lot of people picked Brad Solomon in this fight, so I thought it was a good fight, and I thought it was just as close as everyone thought it was going to be. A fight that didn't surprise me much, and now we have yet another British world title holder. Anthony Joshua improves to 16-0 with 16 knockouts when he knocked out Charles Martin with a devastating punch. Listen, Anthony Joshua is going to get better and better and better, even though now he's a world champion, and in my opinion, he's should fight anybody that he needs to because he's a world champion. We can't use what I'm going to say. We can't say he's still developing and everything else, but he is. And this is a guy that's just going to continue to get better. And I love him. I told you guys a long time ago that Anthony Joshua is the future of the heavyweight division, and I think he proved that on Saturday night. Lee Selby hit the canvas early in the fight, but came back to win a unanimous decision over Eric Hunter. Selby improves to 23-1 with 8 knockouts. Hunter drops to 21-4, 115, 111, 116, 110 twice with the way the three judges scored that. Jamie McDonnell improved to 28 wins, 2 losses, and a draw when he knocked out Fernando Vargas, who was an extremely late sub at 2 minutes and 39 seconds of the 9th round. Vargas drops to 29-10. Georgie Groves, 23-3 now, when he scored a 4th-round stoppage over David Brophy, who loses for the first time in his career. He drops to 16-1-1. Matthew Macklin returned to the ring and beat a very tough Brian Rose in a close fight. It was a majority decision win for Macklin, who improves to 35-6. Rose drops to 28-4 with a draw. 113-113 was the way one judge had it. Another judge had it. Both the other judges scored it for Matthew Macklin, 115-111, who claimed a belt on that. Speaking of claiming belts, Jack Colkay improved to 22-1 when he claimed the regular old WBA junior middleweight title when he won a TKO when his opponent, Jean Carlos Prada, couldn't come out for the 10th round. Prada drops to 31 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. In the heavyweight division, I just want to mention, Daniel Martz is a big heavyweight out of West Virginia who I called one of his fights where he got knocked out. And he was built up. His record was built up. And he's a guy that's getting some fights now because he's got that record that's looking good. But he clearly is a guy that's in danger of being hurt. And his management should really either get somebody to train him and teach him how to fight or stop him, because he's a big white kid that's perfect to get beat up. And he displays no skill. All he does is try to, beat his opponents down, and he doesn't even have any defensive skill. And I think this weekend when Alexis Santos knocked him out in the 7th round proved that. Santos improved to 16 wins, 1 loss with 14 knockouts, and Daniel Martz now suffered his 4th loss. He's 14-4-1. So we'll see what happens with him, but to me it's not looking that good. So anyway, like I mentioned a little earlier, Floyd Mayweather claims that the Pacquiao-Bradley 3rd fight was a draw. Listen, he says he tells Pacquiao, go home and listen to the fight without the sound and everything, and he's trying to blame the crowd for influencing the judges. My problem with Floyd Mayweather, well, I have a lot of problems with Floyd Mayweather, but one of them is the fact that he just can't stand when other fighters get attention. And Manny Pacquiao is getting a lot of attention because of his performance against Bradley. And to suggest that Bradley is not a good opponent is ridiculous. And to suggest that this fight was a draw is even more ridiculous. Floyd Mayweather is he's either one of two things. Either he's clearly planting the seed for what I predict will be a rematch against Mayweather and Pacquiao later this year. Floyd may very well be planting that seed, or he's a stupid guy that has a lot of money. It's either of those things. Speaking of women-beaten men, Jamie Cox, who's a boxer on the other side of the pond, was charged with breaking into his former girlfriend's house and then beating her up. He was convicted the other day. And apparently, according to the trial records, he barged through his former girlfriend's front door and then kicked in her bedroom door and started choking her. The bottom line is he denied it, said that he was scared that she was going to commit suicide. He was trying to save her. And the courts said no. And he was sentenced. They actually had a tape of him, their version of the 911, which they call 999, which was 21 minutes long. On that tape, he's telling her, as he's screaming and threatening her, that he's going to knock your spark out, which is, doesn't sound good, right? He was convicted of assault by a beating, violence to secure entry, harassment, and criminal damage. They did not take any chances. They did not slap the wrist, similar to Floyd Mayweather beating up his girlfriend while his bodyguards held his kids there to watch. Floyd Mayweather got a month in a country club jail. Jamie Cox is going to prison. He got sentenced to 6 months for the assault. Basically, it's over a year, almost a year and a half in jail. 6 months, over 6 months for the assault, another 20 weeks for the violence to secure entry, and another 12 weeks for the criminal damage. And in addition to that, they're all going to run concurrently, so he's going to be in jail for over a year. And he had to pay some compensation to his former girlfriend and all the court fees. So I think the U.S. Should try to follow some of those types of rules that the UK does. Did you catch this one? A former prostitute and adult entertainment star, which means porn. Her name is Lisa Lewis. She's promoting boxing in the land down under, which is kind of fitting for a prostitute. But anyway, she had a fight fall out. She's the main event of her fight was going to be another former fighter who's been known to, pose without any clothes on. Mia St. John, who, yes, she's still fighting and definitely does not look like her former Playboy centerfold self. But they couldn't secure an opponent, or the opponent dropped out. So the promoter, Lisa Lewis, who's the former prostitute, is fighting Mia St. John, despite never fighting before in her life, ever. So she's training, and they're going to have this fight. So they're doing it for some fundraiser for Women's Refuge program over in Australia. So we'll see what happens. She's also claimed already, win, lose, or draw, she's going to fight again. So we'll see what happens. Showtime has announced some fights. First and foremost, on May 21st, they're going to be featuring a junior middleweight triple header in which Urslandi Lara will be fighting against Vanis Martirosyan in a rematch of their fight that ended in a draw back in 2012. And their Charlo brothers, Jermal and Jermel, will be fighting on the same card. Jamal will be defending his title against Austin Trout, and Jermell will be meeting John Jackson. So Jermell and Jamal on the undercard, in the main event, Ursulandi Lara against Vanis Martirosyan in a fight that promises to be good. And speaking of good fights, June 11th, Hall of Fame induction weekend, it was announced that Demetrius Andrade. Now remember, the main event is Ruslan Proladnikov, right? And he's fighting John Molina Jr. Well, it was announced the other two fights because it's going to be a triple header. Demetrius Andrade is fighting Willie Nelson for the WBC's super welterweight / junior middleweight title. It's going to be a title elimination, I should say. Will be the co-main event, and opening up the triple header will be Dejan Zalakainen taking on Emiliano Marcelli for the WBC's lightweight world title. So a couple of good fights coming our way in June. So all on Showtime. So which is pretty cool about that, So anyway, I still feel that the just getting back to Pacquiao and Mayweather, the second fight, I do believe it's going to happen this year. If it doesn't happen in September, I guess we would have to look forward to it early 2017, which doesn't make any sense to me considering both fighters will age. But then again, both fighters will be aging, so it's not like one's going to have a clear advantage over the other. They both will be aging at the same time. So, and I would have to give the edge in terms of staying crisp to Floyd, only because he stays in great shape. Now, so does Manny. But to suggest, Floyd still talking and not wanting to give Manny any credit. I agree with Floyd about Manny making excuses after their fight. I lost some respect for Manny for not just giving Floyd the accolades for beating him, and then for even suggesting that he won the fight, which was ridiculous. But on the other hand, I also, I can't stand when Floyd just doesn't like when anyone else gets attention. And I thought that it was a typical classless Floyd act for the April Fools. I know he thought it was really funny, but announcing that he was going to fight Triple G, to me, it just shows you the character of this man. He actually makes it a joke by taking advantage of his most loyal fans, which I find pretty funny. I guess it's just stupid. But Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao rematch, I think you could bet money that it's going to happen. I really do. It's still going to generate interest. People are already talking about it. The Pacquiao fans say that Manny was hurt. Now they're using it. He was hurt. He's going to beat Floyd the second time. Traditionally, Floyd has only given two fighters rematches, and he's looked better in the rematches. I do think that Floyd would fight like the wimpy fighter that he is, and run from Manny all night. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. Right now, kudos to Manny Pacquiao. He looked really good against Timothy Bradley. There was no question about that. I'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Hit Joe Lewis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh? What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Today's show is being brought to you in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Get your free copy right now. Find out all about the mag by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and clicking on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover, which looks like this on the right-hand side of the website. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out his menu by visiting his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Tell him how great he sounds on the show, and I'm sure he'll throw you a free cannoli. I'm sure he will. He loves when you tell him how great he was. But anyway, joining us right now with his fights of the week, Dax Khan. What's up, Dax?
What's going on, everyone?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. We got some great fights over this past weekend, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But your 3 fights of the week, tell us about them and which order you're going to be doing them.
All right, real quick before we do that, is the sound better this time?
I don't know. We should talk about that at some other time. But what's the 3 fights?
A couple weeks ago, there was a big echo, so I want to see if I have to
No, you sound fine. You sound fine. What's the 3 fights?
All right, this week we're going to do the Gary Russell and Patrick Hyland fight up at Foxwoods for the WBC featherweight title, and then we're going to go over to Brooklyn and we're going to do the PBC and NBC card, and there we're going to do the welterweight fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Chris Algieri, and the WBO cruiserweight bout between Krzysztof Glowacki and Steve Cunningham.
So the first one you're going to break down will be the Russell-Hyland fight?
Yes.
Okay, shoot.
All right, here we go. Gary Russell Jr., he's starting to make a little bit of noise for himself. He's a former amateur standout. He has a solid amateur pedigree. He's a slick fighter. He punches from awkward angles. He knows how to steal rounds with flurries. And, he has world-class footwork. He knows how to use the entire ring to his advantage. The cons on Gary Russell Jr. is his biggest win was a 4th-round stoppage over Yanni Gonzalez a year ago. Knowing Yanni Gonzalez's history, we have to say, was that a good win or an off night for Gonzalez? And Russell still fights like an amateur at times. He's really yet to win a big fight other than the Gonzalez fight. His resume is filled with opponents there to make him look good. Patrick Hyland, the pros on him is he knows how to apply pressure. He won't allow himself to be bullied in the ring. He has a solid chin, and he's a confident fighter who's hard to discourage, even when falling behind in fights, if we remember the Javier Fortuna bout. Volume is the key for Patrick Hyland. When he starts touching his opponent, he's relentless at seeking the stoppage. The cons on him is the fact he's strictly a come-forward fighter. He doesn't incorporate defense in his attack. He has solid defense, but he abandons it. While volume is the key for him, he often waits too long to let his hands go, and he'll follow his opponents. With his type style, he needs to learn to hit anything, be it the arms, shoulders, sides, you name it, hit it. My official pick here, Bill, for as much as I'll be rooting for Patrick Hyland, I have to go with Gary Russell Jr. Patrick, as I stated, has issues with slick fighters. Russell won't be overly impressive. It's going to be a snoozer, but more than likely, Hyland's going to be a step behind all night, and Gary Russell Jr. is going to retain his title.
Gary Russell, I agree with you on his resume. For a guy that shows so much promise, he's literally fought no one. And a flag goes up when you start looking at his resume, because we all see the potential that he has and obvious his talent level, and they just don't put him in tough. His toughest fight, he came up with a loss, and like you said, the fight against Gonzalez. I, too, am picking Gary Russell, however, because I don't believe Patrick Hyland even belongs in the same ring with Gary Russell. This is a total mismatch. I don't think Patrick Hyland, he may be the nicest guy on the planet, but he's not that great of a fighter. And talk about padded record. Anybody that just looks... This fight, Dax, is the exact problem with the sport of boxing and what the fans get shoved down their throat on TV. You know, it's a fight that looks good on paper. If you knew nothing about these fighters and you just looked at their records, you would say, wow, this is going to be a good fight. It's so opposite that. You know, I mean, you know, again, no disrespect to Patrick Hyland, but he has his talent level is nowhere near what we think Gary Russell's is at and what he's displayed. This is a showcase fight for Gary Russell. It isn't going to be close. I'm with you. I'm picking Gary Russell.
Yeah. It's interesting that, you know, you mentioned, you know, how he's been coddled, Gary Russell Jr., since he's been turning pro, because all those other amateurs that were around, you know, they were all around at the same time, whether it be in Amir Imam or in our next fight, we're going to speak about Errol Spence and some guys that he fought, like Julian Williams. They all seem to transition into the professional style a lot better than Gary Russell Jr., and they've all seemed to, you know, have a little bit more desire than Gary Russell Jr. So, you know, Gary Russell Jr., the jury, the verdict is still out on him there, Bill, you know, and this isn't going to be the fight, as you said, to find out, you know, if he's legitimate or he's not.
Next fight you're doing is the Spence-Algieri fight?
Errol Spence Jr. and Chris Algieri.
All right, tell us about that one.
And the pros on Errol Spence Jr. is he was a world class amateur, great experience that he transitioned well into the pros. When you compare him to most of his Olympic teammates, I think Errol Spence is the one who's transitioned the best, and he has power. He has real power. He knows how to set his opponents up, so he lets that power go at the right time, and he boxes them to set them up. He doesn't waste punches or look for the knockout. He's never overly anxious, and he's composed in the ring. He's active in the ring. He fights at least 4 times a year in the last 2 years to own his skill set, to turn himself into a world-class fighter. The cons on him, Bill, I don't have a lot of cons on Errol Spence Jr., except to say he hasn't been on the world title stage, and he's still in developing, you know, is still in that developing stage. This is going to be the hugest jump in his career. Now, Chris Algieri, the pros on him, he's always in shape, he can box well, and he uses his jab well. Algieri has underrated power, and when he's in the zone, he can land at will. He has a great chin, despite being down quite a bit. He took those knockdowns well, he got up, he regrouped himself, and he managed to gain wins, including a world title. The cons on him, he doesn't know his identity as a fighter. He tries to be a puncher, he tries to be a boxer, he rarely mixes it well together to maximize his performance. Meanwhile, he's capable of doing it both, and he has mental lapses early in fights. That's why he's been dropped. It takes him a few rounds to get started, and when he decides what style he wants to employ. The many times he's been hurt, they were early, and when in against Manny Pacquiao, we could see every time he was hit and he was down, he became very confused. Errol Spence Jr. is going to be the guy who's going to push Algieri to the limits. Algieri's tough. He always comes in shape. But Errol Spence is a step up in ability, physically more imposing, and that's why I'm going to pick him solely, if anything, Bill, based on the fact that Algieri has those early lapses, and Errol Spence Jr. is going to take advantage of them.
You know, it's a really tough fight to pick, Dax. I mean, you know, if you look at the skill set, and you're right, Errol Spence Jr. Did transition from the amateurs to the pros pretty seamlessly. Chris Algieri has been in there at least his last couple of years with some top opposition, and he's looked well against both of them. I mean, against all three of his last fights. But he's coming up on the losing end. You know, at one point he thought he was a knockout puncher. At another point, you know, he went from being a what he thought was a slick boxer to a power puncher, and you know, he's displayed different styles almost. You know, and you know, it's almost like I wonder what he's going to try to do against Errol Spence Jr. My gut tells me to be careful on this fight. But I have to lean like you towards Errol Spence Jr. Because I think that he's got the better set of skills. He's got more tools in his toolbox. But I think that Chris Algieri is an extremely live underdog, and I would not be shocked if Chris Algieri wins this fight. I would not be shocked at all. I'm picking Errol Spence, but Chris Algieri is a good fight for him, I think. So we'll have to wait and see.
You know, those cards down at the Paramount that Star Boxing does, Rockin' Fights at the Paramount, I love that series, and I think it's a great place to develop fighters. The problem there with Chris Algieri is he became a big star, and they never upped his level slightly. They threw him right into that next level. And when he went in there for his world title against Ruslan Provodkanov, Bill, if Ruslan Provodkanov was a bigger puncher instead of a volume puncher that wears guys down, I think Chris Algieri would have already been yesterday's news.
Interesting. A lot of people felt that it was torn between who won that fight. So. But anyway, we're both so far. We got the same picks. Now you got your last fight, Krzysztof Glowacki, going up against Steve Cunningham. In case everyone forgot, Glowacki was the guy who upset Marco Captain Huck in the cruiserweight division last year, and this is his first fight, I believe, back since winning the title, isn't it?
I believe it's his first, or is this his second? I know that there was a few fights that he was going to have that didn't come through, and of course Roy Jones called him out. But I think you're right. This might be his first fight back since then. Matter of fact, it is his first back since then, almost a year. So it'd be interesting to see, how he comes off.
Well, break this one down.
All right, on Steve Cunningham, experience in big fights. He's been in with the best in the sport from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He has a knockdown over the lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Steve has a great jab, and he knows how to fight at long range. He has an impressive reach for a man his size, over 82 inches. That's something you don't see often for a guy 6'3". Fighters like Lennox Lewis or Tyson Fury have that type of reach. The cons on Steve Cunningham is he's showing signs of an aging fighter. His jab isn't what it once was. His output has slowed, and he only fights in spurts. He's been on the canvas quite a bit in his career. He's been only stopped once, and that was by Tyson Fury due to the size, and I believe he underestimated Steve Cunningham. But when you're an aging fighter who's known to be vulnerable early, it's a bad sign that you're getting knocked out early because, something, in my opinion, one of those times you're not going to be getting up. And the guy across the ring from him, Krzysztof Glowacki, he imposes his will, and he doesn't get discouraged. He does have one-punch knockout power, and he has a very solid chin. Remember, he dropped Marco Huck dropped him in the sixth, but Glowacki got up and he recovered almost immediately, as if it was a flash knockdown, and it was a solid shot. Glowacki never takes a step back. He has that old-school mentality where he's willing to take two or three to land one because he knows his one is going to count more than those two or three. He has good stamina. It follows through with him from the first round to the 10th round, and he doesn't take any unnecessary risk. He makes sure his punches count. He doesn't have a lot of big fight experience. He's not the fastest fighter. His footwork is very basic, but because of the fact he is relentless and he's never going to stop coming, I actually believe that Krzysztof Glowacki is going to be the man who might just end Steve Cunningham's career, Bill. I'm a big fan of Cunningham. I always have been, but he's an aging fighter. Glowacki is a different breed. He's one of those Eastern European fighters who come in there and they look to just break their opponents down at all costs. Early success for Steve, but Glowacki's going to catch him late. That's my official pick.
This is another really tough one because, Steve Cunningham, I agree with everything you're saying about Steve, but Nassim Richardson is a really good trainer. They work well together. And the one thing that I will say about him and Cunningham, they seem to have evolved into being extremely smart in the ring. And I think that the only way for him to come out and beat Glowacki would be to use, his jab, his movement, things that he has displayed and been successful at. It's when he gets caught in those firefights, like you mentioned, that the age starts becoming a factor, his chin fails him, et cetera, et cetera. I do expect him to move and try to outbox Glowacki, but Glowacki's a very patient fighter. We saw that against Marco Captain Huck, and for all intent and purposes, he was losing that fight until the knockout. I don't think he cares about losing rounds. I think that his goal is to take his opponent out, and I think the longer this fight goes, the less chances Steve Cunningham has to win it, although Steve Cunningham's chances to win the fight are the longer it goes, because if he's using his jab and using his boxing ability and taking Glowacki, in a boring fight, the longer it goes for Cunningham, should be the better choice for their game plan. However, I think in lieu of Glowacki's style, his patience, his headhunting, his knockout ability, I think he will be stopping Steve USS Cunningham late in this fight. And I think Glowacki, a win over Cunningham, following his win over Marco Captain Huck, if his position in the division isn't secure now, it definitely will be after this. I'm officially going the same as you, Krzysztof Glowacki. So first time in a long time, the both of us have picked all three of the same fights.
Yeah, matter of fact, we usually get about two that we agree on. There's always that one we disagree on. Back to Steve, when you hit it right on the head. Your exact, when you say the volume, he's going to have to keep that up in order to outbox Glowacki. If this was the Cunningham a few years ago, I agree. But I think in his last few fights, you've seen Steve kind of fade a little bit in fights where he can only fight in spurts instead of that continuous momentum. So, and his legs obviously aren't what they used to be, and that's what you need to stay away from a guy like this. And that's what really is leaning me towards Glowacki. If Steve was able to, use his legs more, I would actually, say Steve just outboxes him in a safe fight.
But you know what? In Cunningham's defense, the fights that he's faded in were in the heavyweight fights, and maybe that is a result of fighting bigger men. He, in a sense, he's fighting a similar size guy in weight wise, at least with Glowacki. So we'll see. If he fades in this fight, then that it's simply father time catching up with him and running out of gas. So interesting fights. All three of these. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Two of the three are interesting fights. That Gary Russell-Patrick Hyland fight is, to me, a complete joke. But anyway.
One last thing on that. He's jumping back down to the cruiserweight division, and over the years, we've seen what happens to a lot of guys at that age, probably within the last decade, when they leave the heavyweight division and they jump back down, the effects that it has on the body. So that might even be worse for Steve Cunningham.
Well, the thing is that he never was a big heavyweight, though. He always was, he only came over to cruiserweight limited by, not even 10 pounds. So I don't know. I'm surprised that you didn't pick the Jesus Soto Carras Yoshiro Kamagagi fight, because that's going to be an action-packed fight, and you never know which Jesus Soto Carras is going to show up. This is a guy that can either put on a great show or just look like he's thinking about other stuff. So that's another good one. We actually got some decent fights on tap this week.
Yeah, we have a lot of decent fights on tap for the next couple months. The year started out slow, but the next couple months, we really have a lot going on here. So we should be lucky. Boxing seems to be like a lot of aging fighters. We get it in spurts.
So listen, big fights this weekend. Let's talk about my favorite fight, really, for the significance of the sport. Anthony Joshua destroys Charles Martin, Dax. I don't think that many of us were that surprised, although there was that, question if, Charles Martin connects with Anthony Joshua, with his chin hold up. He did land a couple of solid shots, and Joshua didn't go anywhere. But I don't know if this fight was more showing us how good Anthony Joshua is or how bad, Charles Martin was. And in my opinion, although I'm a huge, huge fan of Anthony Joshua, and I've said many, many times that I think he's the future of the heavyweight division, I believe that both of these fighters weren't really ready to fight for a world title in lieu of, their records, resumes, whatever. What's your thoughts on that, and of course the fight itself?
It was a great performance by Joshua. As I stated when I broke this fight down, Charles Martin wasn't ready for this type of stage. It's overwhelming when you're in another, forget about being in somebody else's hometown, when you're in another country. And even my son is watching the fight with me, my 12-year-old, and he's going, "Wow, listen to the way they chant over there." As boxing fans in a lot of these other countries are a lot more into the fights than you see here. And when you're somebody like Charles Martin, who hasn't been in that situation, that alone can be overwhelming. Forget about the opponent in front of you. And Anthony Joshua, he stayed composed. He was in control at all times. I didn't see a lot of people claiming Charles Martin, he took a dive. That's not the situation. Anthony Joshua, he's big, he hit hard, he was composed. And his chin, Bill, if you noticed in this fight, compared to a lot of his last fights, he was tucking his chin in. He was aware that Charles Martin's a big puncher. So that kind of right there, forget about physically showing maturity in the ring with his style. That's a mental maturity showing that, I got a guy over here who is dangerous, so I need to be on point. This isn't something where I can just walk into and be reckless. So that right there shows an overall improvement in Anthony Joshua's style.
Yeah, listen, the guy improves every time he fights. He wants to get better and better. He's humble. He doesn't act like he knows it all. You know, he could have gotten a little more animated after that fight, and deservingly so, but he was very humble. I love the kid, you know, and Charles Martin, to suggest he took a dive. I mean, when fighters typically take a dive, it's from a punch that doesn't really, you know, land, you know. I mean, come on, you can't, there's no one out there that should even suggest that, you know, those punches that landed, that dropped Charles Martin weren't hard, powerful punches. I mean, you know, when he got dropped the first time, the look on his face was like, oh my God, where did that come from? You know, and then the second time, and that whole count was kind of strange. You know, the referee was counting kind of slow, and it seemed like Charles Martin was like trying to, you know, wait for the count to get done. And then all of a sudden he stands up, and he did kind of beat the count. But I think the same result would have been, you know, it was weird. That whole count was weird, I thought.
It was a little weird, and very rarely do I agree with the broadcasting team, but I think it was Max who put on point when he said, you know what, you're in foreign territory, you got to make sure you're getting up at 8. You can't wait till the last second.
Well, that wasn't HBO. Remember, that was Sky. That was the.
I actually watched it on the HBO. I didn't watch it on Sky.
Yeah, but it was Showtime showed it.
Showtime. I'm sorry.
They took the Sky. They took the Sky broadcast, and it was the British commentators. But then you had in studio, you had Paulie and Bernstein.
Yeah, that's what it was. Paulie. It was Paulie. I'm sorry, my mistake on that one.
And then of course the fight, Manny Pacquiao against Timothy Bradley. Some strange stuff after that fight, but you know, I thought Manny Pacquiao looked good. I thought he actually looked like remnants of his old self. And you know, it just aggravates the hell out of me, Dax, when people discredit Timothy Bradley, because Timothy Bradley is a quality fighter. You and I talk about this all the time. This is a top 10 guy, pound for pound. I mean, for people to suggest they write him off like he's just not a good fighter, and I don't understand. You know, I mean, he is a good fighter. He did rock Manny a couple of times in that fight, but Manny Pacquiao, to me, showed some improvement with his defensive skill. His head movement was a little bit there, which made it hard for Timothy to connect, and his counterpunching ability was sharp. I don't recall him being as sharp with the counterpunching for a long time. What did you think?
It was his best performance in years, no question. And it does make you question the Mayweather fight. Was he really injured, or, you know, was that an excuse after all? You know, as far as Tim Bradley, you know, what do you say? You know, Tim Bradley, agree, he's a world caliber, pound for pound, no question fighter. But, you know, in this case right here, it was, you know, maybe, in my opinion, maybe him and Teddy needed a few more fights together before they went into some this big. I don't know. Was it a bad night? You know, Timothy's going to bounce back, no question. Now the question is exactly, where does Manny go next? Will the Floyd fight happen? Will it not happen? Will they both stay retired? One thing I do know for sure is Timothy Bradley is going to be back, and eventually he's going to earn that respect, Bill. The only thing I hope he doesn't do is make the mistake he's done in the past, which we seen at first in the Provocateur fight, to make the fans respect him and to prove he's a real fighter. I'm going to totally abandon my style and go in there and brawl, which wasn't beneficial to him, even though he got the win.
You know, just to say, I mean, Pacquiao clearly was injured in the Mayweather fight. He went and got the surgery and stuff. I don't like that he used it as an excuse, because if he was going to use it as an excuse, he shouldn't have fought to begin with. The Teddy Atlas situation is kind of intriguing. You know, Teddy Atlas, to me, did nothing for him, at least what we saw in the corner. I mean, you know, when the camera was on Teddy, he really performs for the camera. It was pretty nerve-wracking to watch. I didn't really, you know, hear him. He did say some instructional, technical instructions that he did give Timothy Bradley, but for the most part, he was the motivator that he's known for. And then the shocker, really, to me, came at the end. Teddy Atlas, I respect him falling on the sword for his fighters. He was critical of Freddie Roach for taking selfies on his walk out with the Mayweather fight. I agree with Teddy on all of that. It's not about the trainer, although Teddy makes it about him when the camera's on him. But what surprised me was at the end of the fight, two things. One, that Floyd Mayweather actually believed that the fight was a draw, which just shows how stupid Floyd is. And the other thing was that when Timothy Bradley was asked if he's continuing with Teddy Atlas, he didn't say yes. He said that he's going to evaluate what he's going to do. I think that, similar to what you said, to go back to that, I want to please the fans and brawl with his opponents, I think changing trainers constantly would be a mistake, too. I know he was with one trainer for his whole career until his last two fights. But, I mean, if he's going to stay with Teddy Atlas, listen, he fought Manny Pacquiao, a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no disgrace in losing to him. What's your thoughts on those two things, the Mayweather comments and, of course, Bradley not committing to Teddy Atlas?
We've seen the Bradley, well, not Bradley, but we've seen that with a lot of high-level fighters not committing to a certain trainer and how it has affected their careers. One would be Chad Dawson, who I know is going to fight soon. Look what that did to Chad. That's my most recent example I can use. So, that's obviously always detrimental because you never really develop that bond. We spoke about that a few weeks ago with somebody else. I forget exactly which fighters it was, but, you get a trainer that you're with so long that, you have this connection with them where you guys, they can read you and you can understand them in that short little break that you have in between rounds without having to go through the over dramatics, without having to say so much. It's a dynamics that takes time to build. As for the Mayweather comments, call me silly, but we spoke about that before too, and always wondered why Floyd Mayweather never fought Timothy Bradley. Now, knowing how Mayweather and his company know how to promote fights, and as many times as they have sold fans, showcase fights as pay-per-views and made their blind fans believe this is the best bout available, I can actually see Floyd Mayweather going out there and somehow selling and arranging the Timothy Bradley fight for him instead of a Manny Pacquiao fight because he thinks Timothy Bradley might be the easier opponent, and he can also sit there and say, you know what, I fought a top 10 pound-for-pound guy in my last fight as well.
Well, one of the things Floyd has criticized Manny on in the past.
And it's an opponent that has a win over Pacquiao.
But one thing Floyd has criticized Manny over the past is the fact that Manny has fought fighters coming off a loss. So then he would be hypocritical there. But I thought of that, too, that they would fight each other. But let me just ask you this. Pacquiao-Mayweather 2, will it happen?
I hope not. Well, I'm 50-50 on it. I really hope not because it's going to be nothing good for the sport, no matter how it turns out. Because if it does happen and Manny wins, there'll be a Pacquiao-Mayweather 3, and they just drag it out. And there's too many big upcoming stars, Bill, that deserve this attention that don't have the financial backing to stay in the limelight that these guys do. So, as far as I'm concerned, both of them can stay away.
Dax, great job as usual, and we'll look forward to you next week, my man.
Hey, one last thing. Did you hear this rumor? There's supposed to be an exhibition fight between Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and Roberto Duran that's going to take place on the next Terrence Crawford undercard.
Wow, I didn't hear that, and that's a fight I would be interested in seeing with two older guys. Normally I wouldn't, but we'll see. Keep me posted on that.
Yeah, it was just a rumor. I was just wondering if you had heard about it, and when you were speaking about Duran before, it had popped back into my mind.
Well, keep me posted.
All right, everybody have a great week.
All right, my man. That's Dax Khan. Check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. We're going to take a short break, and I'll be back in a few.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back. Part of the Billy C. Boxing Network.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe. On the web and radio. He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I would think.
Palla tagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York and the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Glad you guys could join us. Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao, numero dos, the rematch. You think it's going to happen? You think it's going to happen? I don't know, man. I do. I said it was going to happen all along. And if you want, drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com with your thoughts. I'll read them tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Speaking about tomorrow's show, we will be doing the blast from the past. And this week's blast from the past, Rocky Marciano. That's right, Rocky Marciano, former world heavyweight champion and boxing Hall of Famer, Rocky Marciano. So make sure you tune in for that, as well as my man Larry Hazard will be joining us tomorrow, and we'll be giving his thoughts on the big fights from this past weekend. And when I read the email from my man Joel asking me about what I thought was the biggest surprise of the weekend, clearly Arthur Abraham not even winning a round, according to the judges, against Gilberto Ramirez. So, I just think that Ramirez deserves a lot of credit. You know, big guy for super middleweight height-wise. But anyway, programming note, we will be doing a live show today, obviously today. Tomorrow and Thursday, we are off on Friday. And it looks like our schedule will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for the rest of this month. And then hopefully we can get back on track. We have been having some technical issues with the stream, so we're interested in some feedback. We believe that it's YouTube. So as far as our podcast, don't forget you can download the podcast on iTunes or Android or Stitcher, I think. Just do a search on The Billy C. Morning Show. Sal Rocky Senecola is scheduled to join us again tomorrow, as well as we hope that we'll get the return of the infamous Jeremy C. So make sure you check that out. I just want to thank everyone that has been signing up and subscribing to the podcast. It's for free, and we got a lot of people that have jumped on board to the podcast. So we appreciate that big time. And again, if you take the time to drop us an email, I'll take the time to read it. All you got to do is email me, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. Well, it's time for...
Wake up. It's time for the... It's too early for a trivia question.
Alrighty then, we got still a trivia question that I know Coach will get it with all these hints. So, Coach, you're not eligible, but everyone else is. And not that I'm being prejudiced towards Coach or anything, but I know he knows this answer. And we just want to give someone else a shot, since Coach has he had to build an addition onto his house. to fit all the prizes he's been winning. But this trivia question, which is being brought to us by the Southern Gourmet Spice Company and their unique spice, Kenny Bear's barbecue rub. Get yourself a bottle and see why I go crazy over this stuff. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Southern Gourmet Spice banner. This trivia question was supplied to us by Henry Haskup, and if we don't get a winner today, I will move on because I guess you'll never get it. I'm not going to give you the answer because I'll recycle it, but it's a who am I question. So I'm going to read the question, and then I'm going to give you some great hints. And then if you're the first one to email me the correct answer, Billy@TalkinBoxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, which incidentally is generally our prize for the winner of our monthly Billy C Challenge. Now, if you're part of the Billy C Challenge, check it out, www.billycboxing.com. Check out the challenge stats because they've been updated, and everybody who's part of that game, that challenge that we do each week, you can see where your standing is. So here's the question. Correct answer, first one gets a Title Bout Championship computer game. Email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. I once stopped a world champion in less than a round, and then in my next fight, I stopped his brother. Who am I? I once stopped a world champion in less than a round, and then in my next fight, I stopped his brother. Who am I? Here's the hint. This fighter is a former world champion. He fought before, and both of these fights took place before 1920. And the division that this guy fought in and was a world champion in was the middleweight division. The middleweight division. If you're the first one to email me the correct answer, you'll win a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. Come on, y'all. Win this one, will you?
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to the Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available right now where all good books are sold, and you can actually get a copy of my book right now by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. You can also get the electronic versions from Nook and Kindle. So get yourself a copy of Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's a great read for everyone, not just boxing fans. It's the story of a freed slave, Tom Molyneux, of course, who fought for his freedom and basically got robbed for the first world title. But it goes deeper than that, because he doesn't even get the recognition for fighting in the first world title fight, which he did, and he doesn't even get the recognition for being America's first heavyweight champion, which he was. And it's all because of the color of his skin. I wrote this book to try and get everyone to learn about this historical feat that is not recorded in either boxing history or even American history. And this is part of history, and it is fact. Tom Molyneux was ripped off and taken advantage of during his lifetime because of the color of his skin. And to this day, almost 200 years after his life, he's still getting screwed, all because of the color of his skin. Read my book and then help me change the way history is told. It's got to be told correct. And Tom Molyneux is a guy that has to be included. This is a guy that is in the history books, but just not correctly. All right? Read my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's a great read. It's 150 pages. It's real quick how to read it. When you read it, it goes very quickly. You'll love the book. I'm telling you. Find out why we got a 5-star rating across the board. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available right now. And if you're looking to get a signed copy, visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and go into the book club section, or run into me at the card show up at the International Boxing Hall of Fame in June. I will be sharing a table with my man, James Curl, and we will have books available at a discount price up there, so make sure you get a copy then. On this day, April 12th in 1997, 2 fights took place in Las Vegas, 2 good ones. Raul Marquez, you see him on Showtime. Is he Showtime? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Showtime. Raul Marquez, or wait a minute, I'm confused. Maybe he is HBO now. I don't know. Raul Marquez, you see him on one of the networks. Knocks out Anthony Stevens in the 9th round to win the vacant IBF junior middleweight title, and that took place in Vegas. On the same card, Oscar De La Hoya wins a 12-round decision over Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker to win the WBC World Welterweight title. Both fights taking place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1981, Sean O'Grady wins a 15-round decision over Hilmer Kenty to win the WBA lightweight title, took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And then a couple of sad notes on this day, April 12th. In 1981, former undisputed world heavyweight champion and boxing Hall of Famer Joe Louis dies in Las Vegas. He was 66 years old. If you ever see the footage of the last fight that he attended, they wheel him out in a wheelchair. This poor guy looked like he was 99 and a half years old. And to find out that, later that he was only 66. And as I see this on this day in history, in boxing history, to see this is actually a piece of New York history because Joe Louis fought so many fights at the Garden. To see that he was only 66 years old is extremely sad. But the late, great Joe Louis passed away at 66 on this day in 1981. And then to make things even worse, on this day, April 12th in 1989, the best fighter ever, make no mistake, the best fighter ever, Sugar Ray Robinson. He was a former welterweight and middleweight world champion and boxing Hall of Famer, dies at 68 years old in California. 68. We lost both of these guys way too soon, in my opinion. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. Don't forget to check us out tomorrow morning. And if you're watching us on the replay, try and get up early one of these days and check us out live. Always hang out in our chat room up at BillyCBoxing.com. There's always some knowledgeable people in there. And I can, if you make some comments in there, I can quote them and talk about them live on the show. Don't forget about the podcast. You can download that, listen to it whenever you want, and all that stuff. But I'll leave you with this. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning. Same bad time, same bad channel. Until then, ciao, baby.